Welcome to the Lemonade and Sunshine podcast. We are your hosts, Kimberly
and Sherri.
We're going to be talking to real people who have made lemonade with the lemons in their lives to help strengthen other people with their challenges.
We all need to know that there's hope and light even on our darkest days. And if you've ever felt alone in your struggles, and who hasn't, come and listen and sip lemonade in the sunshine with us.
And today we're going to talk about a heavy and hard topic, infertility.
Yes, there is sunshine though, but we may have a hard time seeing it while we're in the midst of it.
But I know we're going to feel it.
We are. So I wanted to start, both Sherri and I have different life experiences, and infertility is something that I have had experience with. So I wanted to start by sharing a poem I wrote about my experience with infertility. And I know everyone's experiences are different, but for those who are going through this challenge, hopefully you'll relate to some of this. And if you haven't been through this, you will at some time know someone who is going through this, whether you know it or not. And so just keep an open mind about how you can help support them. I think it's just important that we all in our trials seek to understand and validate each other's losses. And with this particular one, infertility is really a loss, but it's often not recognized as a loss. And it feels very lonely that way. And so it's just so important to validate what people are going through. And so this poem I wrote, I had told myself that at the age of 40, I would stop actively pursuing fertility and I would let it go. And I was kind of like a prayer between me and my Heavenly Father. And so I was approaching 40. I was about a month away from being 40. And my doctors had told me that the last step for me was going to have to be a hysterectomy, that would be the next step for me because I had some health things going on at the time. And a friend of mine called me and she had her hysterectomy. I don't know if I called her, she called me, but she had just had a hysterectomy. And I just mourned with her for her loss. And after I got off the phone with her, just all of my grieving and loss came out. I was kneeling on the floor and I just wrote this poem. It's called Blessings because there is sunshine in our trials and there is sunshine in this, though it doesn't seem like it when you've listened to the first part of the poem. I just want to say first too, my ending is not like I never was able to conceive. So it's not what you think it's going to be, the blessing that come, but there are blessings in it. Okay, month after month and year after year, waiting and hoping the time must be near. I take the test, excited I wait. Then a call from my sister-in-law, good news. She's expecting a baby. Wonderful. Great. And why wouldn't she be? It seems everyone is pregnant but me. Congratulations. Then back to the test. With my luck, it's negative. Try to think the best. Still waiting and hoping it has to be near. Month after month and tear after tear. Tests and hormones, appointments and more. This time it has to work for sure. Try this oil, these vitamins, read this book. Her niece had twins. This is what she took. I listened to all that people suggest. This worked for my friend or daughter-in-law or things they heard on the show they just saw. Or this worked for my brother's best friend, Sister Sue. I know it will have the same good outcome for you. Still waiting and hoping. And I'm sure it is near. Month after month and year after year. Another birth story. Another baby shower, another lesson on motherhood at church, and I'm thinking how to make it through the hour. All around me, I see pregnancy, babies, and even animals and trees are filling the measure of their creation. But what about me? But the questions sometimes are the hardest to bear. On Mother's Day, without my stepchildren there, childless, I sit and feel so exposed, and they ask, do you plan to have children of your own? They are my own in my heart, if only they knew. I did not bear them, though it is true. Or the time they asked, is it your husband or you? Oh, he has children already. It must be you. Sometimes I feel angry and think, why do they ask such personal questions about my life? They're trying to help, but sometimes cause more strife and hurt and pain. And I'm damaged, I feel. And then I recall the one who came to heal. I try to have faith. I try to endure. A little more time, it will happen, I'm sure. In miracles, I believe and trust and wait and hope, month after month and year after year. after this important event and then it is past, I just need to repent and be better and fast. When I'm kinder, more patient, it will happen at last. When I'm through with this calling, the blessings will come. When the temple work for my ancestors is done. And the list goes on, you see, and still I think, what's wrong with me? What haven't I done? What's left to do? Trust the Lord's timing, be still, I know, but sometimes it feels a little too slow, especially when all around I see the blessings I want so badly come so easily to everyone but me. And finally I submit my will, pour it out like water for the Lord to fill. I know and feel his love for me. The scriptures help me find comfort and peace. The women who have experienced before, I read them all, I read once more. The words of Rachel when to Jacob she cried, "Give me children or else I die." Hannah went to the temple each year, where Peninnah vexed her and mocked her tears. Their husbands tried to comfort them with love, yet still they prayed to our Father above. And mine is not much different than theirs. He puts me above all and shows me he cares. In so many ways, more than I can count, he's perfect for me. And I know I am so blessed. Why then can't I just be content with the blessings my Heavenly Father has given to me? When I am hard on myself and feel guilty, I think of these women who want more like me, righteous desires of our hearts to fulfill what we were meant to be. That's not where the poem ends. The ending is personal to me. But I am going to stop there, and I'm not going to read the ending, but I will tell you my ending at the conclusion of this episode on infertility. I will share my ending.
Thank you so much, Kim. I know that's really personal and intimate for you to share that poem and to share your thoughts and feelings, to go back to that place. That was so hard for you. And really, for all of our guests that we have coming on this episode, it is a tough thing to talk about. And we so appreciate them sharing these things, because ultimately, I think it's going to help so many people. And that is what we want to do. We want to help people, give them some hope. And, just by sharing our experiences, it will lighten their load. That's our hope.
Thank you, Sherri. I agree. And I want to thank in advance the women who are coming on, who we love and who are amazing. And we have these 3 women and also myself. So 4 different journeys through infertility. And there are 4 different outcomes to these journeys. Right. And just to give you an overview before we get started on their interviews, we'll talk about pregnancies and miscarriages and secondary infertility and hysterectomies and adoption. And for those who are currently still in their infertility journey, we'll also talk about alternatives to the traditional in vitro type therapies.
I think that's going to be really interesting for people to hear those alternative ideas and maybe something they've never heard of before, or might lead them down a different path that maybe they didn't know about.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, it's been a while since I've been in it and didn't know any of this information either. So, and just, we're going to give a disclaimer. We are not medical experts in any way.
We don't play doctors on TV.
Yeah, we don't.
No, we don't.
Although when I used to have really curly hair and people used to think I looked like the nurse on ER, Juliana Margulies, but
I get that.
When I was younger, my hair was like tight curls, kind of like hers, and I would get it all the time. Like,
wow, you're like, yes, I am.
For Halloween, I wore scrubs one time, and I was like, that's who I am, and everyone got it. But anyway,
you could get a really good table at a nice restaurant with that.
Yeah, I should try.
Right.
But yeah, we don't have any medical experience, and it's just experiences from our own life and information we have from our own experiences. So without further ado, we will start with our interviews. So we have Chelsie here with us, our infertility warrior. It says that on your Instagram account that you're an infertility warrior. I love that. How about we start with you talking about you?
Sure. Hi, I'm Chelsie. I am 32 years old and I live in Utah right now with my husband. We have 2 dogs and we've been in Utah for like 6 years now. I'm a New England transplant, so I'm originally from New England, born and raised. By day, I'm a marketing manager for a clothing boutique here in Utah, and by night, we stay busy with our side business, and my husband and I are really into off-roading. We have 2 Jeeps we built into off-roading vehicles, and we stay really busy with my family and with our nieces, and we're starting some DIY projects around our house. So we stay pretty busy. And like you said, I share a lot about my infertility journey and our infertility journey on Instagram. Right now, it started out sharing our journey through our infertility, and now it's a lot about sharing recreating our life after infertility, because we've pretty much reached the end of our infertility journey as of the end of last year. And so now we're just working on recreating life and our future with this new path that we're on.
I think that's so wise that you're taking time to heal from that, because it is a long, hard journey.
It is. It's been hard for sure.
I just want to say I admire you so much for being public about it, because it's hard. It's hard to put yourself out there and talk about that publicly. I think it takes a lot of courage, and I think you're a strong woman of faith and courage. So, any other questions for Chelsie up front, getting to know her, Sherri?
I just would like to know, when did it start for you, the journey of trying to become pregnant, and how did that go?
Yeah. So I'll try and keep it short. My husband and I started trying to grow our family almost 5 years ago now, and we got relatively lucky. We got pregnant really soon after we started trying, and we were just surprised, shocked, over the moon. And we went to our first appointment at 8 weeks, and they said the baby was measuring a little small, so they wanted us to come back 2 weeks later. And when we went back in 2 weeks later, the ultrasound showed nothing. And so in the span of 2 weeks, we had miscarried, and I ended up needing a DNC to kind of clear that out. And so we took a few months off to kind of grieve and try and recover. And then when we were ready to start trying again, like a few months after we started trying again, my periods started becoming extremely irregular and really extreme. They were just not normal, and I just knew something wasn't right. It was not good. So we went back to our OB. He ended up doing an ultrasound, and they found that I had a fibroid. So they went in, they removed the fibroid. I took a month off from healing from that, and then we started trying again. So now we're about 1.5 years into trying to get pregnant. And since we had gotten pregnant so fast the first time, we were kind of like, thrown off that we had gotten this issue taken care of and we weren't getting pregnant. We were like 4 or 5 months in again. And I just kind of had it in my gut feeling. I'm actually a pediatric cancer survivor. So when I was 16, I was diagnosed with osteosarcoma, which is bone cancer. And I did 1 year of chemotherapy. And while my oncologist told me that the chemos that I were on were not highly likely to affect my fertility, it was just kind of in the back of my head that I needed to go talk to an infertility specialist and make sure that we were all clear there, because I didn't want to try for another year and then find out that like one of my chemos really had caused some egg quality issues or things like that. So we ended up getting into an infertility specialist. We started on some medication with him, and we ended up getting pregnant again on that medication, but it was pretty much a chemical pregnancy. It was a very early miscarriage, and I was able to pass that on my own. And then we went back in and started with an IUI. First IUI we missed. Like by the time we went in to do the IUI, we had missed the window. So that was a bummer. And I was on all this medication. And then as we were getting ready to do the second IUI, my period started getting really irregular again and really terrifyingly extreme. So that led us to a bunch of tests, and they basically found another fibroid, and it was taking up 95% of my uterus. So it was really extreme, and it was causing me so much pain. So we went in and ended up having that removed, and I needed to recover from that. And after that happened, we actually ended up switching care to a different fertility specialist up at the University of Utah. We had some friends who had gone there. She had recommended a doctor up there to me, and then we had another friend recommend that same doctor like a week later. So it was just kind of like divine intervention that we needed to go switch care to this new doctor. So we started again, IUIs, missed another one. Then we did a second one. We finally got to see an IUI all the way through. And that felt so good after 3 years to finally, and 2 surgeries to finally be able to get through a complete treatment.
Can you tell me, because I am not versed in infertility, but what is an IUI?
Okay, IUI is like a step below IVF. It's intrauterine insemination. Basically, it's when they give you medication and they track your ovulation, and then they end up putting the sperm through a catheter up into your uterus, and then hoping that you conceive up there. So basically, it's helping the sperm get past your cervix and up as close to your fallopian tube as possible. Whereas IVF is when they harvest the eggs, they make the embryos, and then they put the embryo into your uterus.
Already fertilized and got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually the IUI too is they give you Clomid or something like that to stimulate your ovaries, which that's super fun too, because then you have lots of emotions that go along with that. I don't know if you ever had Clomid or that kind of a treatment before.
Yeah, they put me on Femara, which is basically the same type of medication. And yeah, it made me extremely unstable.
Yeah. It's really good. Yeah, really good for a marriage too. It's like you're PMSing like constantly. Yeah.
It works, but I kept telling my husband, like, I don't know, I don't recognize myself.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't understand why I feel these things. I would experience on the Femara really low lows, and like, I'm not someone who I think, like, I would not call myself depressed. I deal with some PTSD from the cancer stuff, but it was like low lows. Like, I could not get out of bed some days. It was really, and I'd be like, I don't recognize myself. It was scary. So we finally got to see an IUI through, and it didn't work. And once again, by the time that we saw the IUI through, my period started getting terrifyingly extreme. I'll spare the details, but it was to the point where my husband was afraid that he was going to come home and I would have been passed out from blood loss. There's just no way to adequately describe like how extreme my periods had become. And they were so painful. And I was so fatigued. And we ended up doing an MRI. My doctor ended up calling for an MRI because he was concerned about it. And what the MRI showed was that my fibroid scar tissue had actually turned into adenomyosis. And adenomyosis is when your endometrial lining grows into the uterine wall and creates like this mass of muscle and endometrial tissue. And so when your uterus tries to shed your lining, it's like trying to shed like your actual uterine wall. There's no way to remove it. It's not like a fibroid, which is like sticking out of your uterus and you can kind of shave it off. It's like in your uterine wall.
Intertwines.
Yeah. Yeah. And my adenomyoma took up the whole posterior wall of my uterus. Wow. And so there was no way to resect it. It just got to the point where my doctor was like, there's just nothing that we can do to take care of this, to take it out. And he said, you could keep trying to get pregnant with the adenomyosis in it, but it would give you a very high risk of miscarriage. It would give you a very high risk of preterm labor, and it would give you a very high risk of needing a hysterectomy right after you gave birth, if you were even lucky to get to full term. And because at that point, we had been 4 years in, and I was literally getting iron transfusions. Like, I was having to go get iron transfusions every couple of weeks because I was losing so much blood just to keep my iron and my red blood cells at a kind of stable level. And so the only real solution was at that point a hysterectomy. And I don't say this to be dramatic, like it was literally slowly killing me. And so that's what we did. At the end of last year in October, I had a total hysterectomy, and they took my uterus and my tubes and my cervix. And I said, peace out to that organ that was trying to kill me. And I spent the rest of last year just healing from it. I tried to keep that short, but that is my...
Well, it's a long journey, so it's hard to sum all of that up, and we don't even get a tiny idea of the emotional toll that takes on you, the up and down. I really can't imagine. I can empathize, but not really imagine what that's like, to think you are and then not, and back and forth.
Yeah, and it was really hard. We were constantly living in kind of this state of limbo. We were afraid to make plans because what if we had a treatment? You know, like you can't be like, oh, on this day every month is when we're going in. It's very dependent on your cycle and where you fall and how you react to medication, and your medication protocols can change every cycle. So there was just no making plans further than a couple of weeks. There was no traveling. We were saying no to a lot of things. I was so sick. I was so fatigued from all the things that was going on. I look back now that I'm post hysterectomy and post like healing, and I'm feeling better than I've felt in 4 years. Like I feel physically so much better. And it's not until I got to this point that I realized I knew I was sick, but I didn't realize how incredibly sick I was, until the point where I was really just in survival mode for over a year, especially towards the end when that adenomyoma really started to develop and it really started to take me out. So we were living in limbo. We just couldn't make any plans. And then, the up and down, that is it going to work? It was anxiety all the time, just hoping. You don't want to hope, but you want to hope. You don't want to get your hopes too much. And then you try and keep yourself realistic. And then inevitably you get the news that your cycle didn't work or your treatment didn't work. And then it all comes crashing down because now you have to start all over. Yeah, it's emotionally draining. There's no way to describe it other than that.
Yeah, it's like an emotionally unfun roller coaster ride, just of like ups and downs, of highs and lows. And I'm so sorry that you had to be on that ride.
Yeah.
What do you want to say to someone else who might be going through this challenge? And first of all, let me just say, I know it's really hard. My fertility or infertility, because I didn't have fertility, has been resolved for many years. It's been a long time. Anyway, but I still, when Sherri said, I think we need to do this podcast episode as one of the first, I was like, because that means I have to think about it and I have to talk about it and I have to get in that place of hurt that I was in before. And it is hard to talk about. And so thank you so much for sharing that, because I know it's not easy. But what would you like to say to somebody else who's struggling with going through this right now?
So my point of view is really, I feel like, very unique in the infertility world, because I feel like a lot of people, or a lot of the message coming to people who are in the middle of an infertility journey is don't give up. Don't give up. Your baby's waiting. You'll get your rainbow baby. Keep going. Don't give up. It's going to work out. It's going to work out. And I feel like I'm in the opposite point of view, where I think that's almost like an unhealthy message to put out there to the infertility community, because Dustin and I, my husband and I, really struggled with feeling like we were giving up when we were told that I had this huge issue, but we could maybe still keep trying, but it still might not get pregnant. It's still really high risk. You still will have all of these issues that will come up. If you do get pregnant, you still might have a miscarriage, but you could still keep trying. But you have a really severe issue going on in your uterus, and our recommendation is that it comes out, but you could still keep trying if you want to. And because of that, and because of the message from the infertility that's coming at the infertility community, don't give up, don't give up, I really struggled with choosing myself for a really long time, because I felt like I was giving up. And there was a lot of guilt, and I don't think that's really fair. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, what I would say to someone who might be a few years behind where I am now is, it's okay to choose yourself. Everyone has their own limits, right? But you don't have to keep pushing past your limit just because everyone says, don't give up, it's going to work out. Because the truth is that it might not work out the way you want it to. And there's got to be a point where you choose yourself and your health and your well-being and your mental capacity and your future for yourself. There's got to be a point where you just finally say enough. And I found a lot of power and a healing in saying enough. And I think there is a difference between saying enough and giving up. And I don't view, now that I'm removed, I don't view us as giving up. I view us saying enough. This is enough. This is not for us anymore. We're miserable. I'm so sick. I cannot handle this grief journey that we're on, this grief roller coaster. 1 year more, I just want to be happy. I want to be healthy and happy, and I'm ready to choose me. And I guess that's where I come from when I talk about people who are in the throes of infertility, that it's okay, and that I'm giving you permission, because a lot of people, you don't hear that message as much, but I'm giving you permission to say enough and to choose yourself if you're at that point where you feel like you just can't keep going anymore. It's okay. You don't have to keep going. And that's a hard decision, right? I'm not saying I made that easily at all. Dustin and I really had to talk about it and really think about it. But at the end of the day, now that I'm removed, like 6 months, am I 6 months? 6 months from my hysterectomy, I can 100% undoubtedly say it was the best decision we could have made. I am so happy we made that decision.
Well, and I think for those of us that have followed you on Instagram, watching your struggle and your pain and everything else, I mean, I was like, good. Like, I
Relieved?
was glad that you were, yes, I was relieved for you because you were suffering so much and you don't like to see those that you love suffer. And so I was glad that you chose you. But it is a hard decision, and you do have to come. It's not one that is made easy, no matter what the circumstances are.
I imagine since you are public on social media, you've had a few, let's say, insensitive comments possibly, or I haven't checked you out on Instagram, but I'm just assuming because anytime you put yourself out there, you know, you get the negative and you get the positive. What are some of the, like, let's not say this to people who might have gone through something?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the most painful things that still rubs my fur the wrong way to this day is right after our first miscarriage, I had several people say, well, at least you know you can get pregnant. I mean, I feel like we shouldn't even need to talk about why that's not something to say, but don't say that because, well, I mean, I got pregnant, but did I get a baby at the end of it? No. So there's nothing out of it. Instead, I had to carry the pain and the grief and the wondering like who that baby might have been and what my life might look like now if that pregnancy had worked out. And now I'm 5 years later and the whole uterus had to go. So no, at least I knew I could get pregnant. That didn't do anything for me.
I know. It's just, I know for a fact how hard it is because I didn't realize this struggle and challenge until Kim was my friend. And I might have said something like that, like just trying to make somebody feel better. I might have said something that is just so hurtful, not meaning to. I mean, I don't think in general people set out to hurt your feelings, but man, I did not realize what it was like for her until she explained things to me. And then I started to see them through her eyes. And then it was a lot easier to understand. And hopefully then I didn't at least say those things.
And you know what? Like I think that's all anyone can do is, you know, what's that saying? When you know better, you do better. So now that, you know, if anyone's listening to this and now you know, so just do better. What is
something that they could say, or what do you suggest someone say? I mean, is there anything?
Yeah, you just say, I'm sorry, that sucks. And I'm here for you. And that's pretty much it. Like, I don't need a solution to what I'm going through because there isn't one. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so instead I need someone to literally just say, I'm sorry, that sucks. Can I send you like a cookie from Crumble? Can I show up with dinner? Like, can I leave flowers at your door? Like the amount of, after my first miscarriage, I came home and I had like 5 bouquets from friends all over the country who I have, who I didn't even know, like, were that paying that close attention to me, who had sent them like that. Those were the things that truly helped. Yeah. And while I'm on this topic, because I'm going to get soapboxy again for a moment, but the other thing that I would like to talk about that I don't think people should say to people going through infertility is, well, you could just adopt. And adoption is like an amazing thing. And the people who go through adoption, I think like so highly of them, but adoption does not cure my infertility. And to me, that it's apples to oranges, right? Like, and it's not the infertility community's job to adopt all the children who need to be adopted. So like, I just feel like that's not something, I don't want to be given that solution because that's not a solution to the fact that I can't get pregnant. It's almost like a consolation prize when people say that to me. And I know a lot of people are saying that, well, you know, if your goal is to have a baby, then this is how you can have a baby. And I get that 99% of the time it's coming from a place of love and just trying to help, like you were saying. But I think another thing people don't realize, and this is something that we get asked quite a bit now that we're post hysterectomy, like, well, are you guys going to adopt now? Adoption's not guaranteed. It's just like pregnancy, right? Like, you go through home studies, you maybe sign up with an adoption agency, and then you have to hope that a birth mom will pick you. And we have friends who got passed up by 6 or 7 birth moms. that's painful in and of itself. So adoption, it's not like, Dustin always said, oh, I thought it's like going to the store and like, I want a baby and someone hands you a baby. Like, no, it's not how it is at all. It's not guaranteed.
And then there's their own set of challenges, which we're not telling Kim anything because she's been down that road too.
Yeah, it's like getting off of one roller coaster ride and going on to another. And that's why I said I think it's wise that you've taken the time to like just be and heal, because it is different. It's hard. There are definitely different challenges with that, with adoption. And I went through that too. Like, so we were still, even after we adopted, I was still hoping that I would be able to get pregnant. And, everybody just assumed that my infertility was resolved because we had adopted, but it is separate, and adoption does not resolve infertility. So I think that's a good message to give to those who might not understand or know. Good soapbox.
My solution to, what to say instead is, instead of saying, are you going to adopt? I would suggest saying like, what's your next step in your journey? Or what are you going to work towards next? Or, what's this year going to look like? Or what are you working towards? Because there's more to me and Dustin than just trying to grow our family. We have so many other things we want to talk about. And so when someone asks, what are you working towards next? Well, that opens the door to a lot of things that we can talk about, and it doesn't have to be about growing our family.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So Chelsie, I'm just going to tell you this. So when we were at like the height of our infertility, and I was telling Sherri about this, I went to church and I was sitting there, and, I had my 3 stepkids, but it was Mother's Day and they were at church with their mother. And so I was alone, and I was just feeling like all eyes were on me. We're sitting up front. And so I was just feeling kind of down. It's a hard day when you're going through infertility,
Mm-hmm.
And, but by the time I got to Relief Society, I was feeling better. Like the lesson, I don't know what it was, but I was feeling uplifted. I was feeling better. And then at the end of the Relief Society meeting, the lady behind me was like, so when are you going to have kids of your own? And I just kind of laughed it off and was like, I don't know, you'll have to ask the Lord. And then she said it again, like a different way. And she said it a few times and was pressing me. And so I left the meeting in tears. I got out into the hallway and I had tears in my eyes, and I was like going as fast as I could to the car. And I told my husband about it, and he was like, what? I don't know if we'll share this on this podcast or not. But anyway, he's like, I'm going to get up and bear my testimony, and I'm going to say, we try every day. And it just made me laugh so hard that like it made it better. And I just think sometimes there has to be laughter in hard things. And so with that, where is the sunshine in all this? Where is the light, and what blessings have you seen in this challenge?
Yeah. If you were to ask me that like a year ago when we were in the throes of it, I would say I can't see anything. I felt like I was truly in the deepest, darkest pit, darkness, and just like trying so hard to look up and see some sliver of light and barely seeing anything. And there was especially after our second miscarriage, just, it was just not a good time, and I did not see a lot of light. My sister, so I'm the oldest of 4, and about 6 months after our second miscarriage, my sister got pregnant with my first niece. And when she told us, I don't think I have ever cried that hard. And it was so hard on so many levels because I was so jealous. I felt so terrible because I'm her big sister. I should be happy. If there's one thing in this world that I know I'm good at, I'm a really good big sister. Like, I own that. My siblings call it big sister energy. And when she told me that, I couldn't be happy in that moment. And I felt awful. And that just made it even worse. And I was so jealous and heartbroken, and it was just awful. And I just did not know after she told us she was pregnant, how I was going to be happy, how I could even be around my family. We're really close to my sister and brother-in-law. She actually married Dustin's roommate from college. They live literally half a mile down the street. We built houses in the same neighborhood. And when she had my niece, Riley, I was at first a little nervous about how I was going to feel about the baby. And I can honestly say that Riley has healed us in so many ways. I never knew I could love someone so little, so much. And then my youngest sister gave us a second niece last September. So now I have two nieces. And I think a lot of people look at how involved we are in their lives. The girls have their own room in my house. We have like everything. We have double of everything. So we have the same blanket that Riley sleeps with. We have the same stuffy she sleeps with. We have pack and play. We have high chair. We have activity center for the littler one, for Presley. Because my goal is that they are able to just like drop the kid and go. And I think we often get questioned, how can we be so involved in our nieces' lives and that not be painful? But that's been the biggest blessing for us, is that those girls were sent to my family to heal us, because we've been able to have parenting, if you will, experiences with those girls. And both of my sisters have been so generous with their daughters and have given us opportunities to have mother and father experiences with the girls. We literally just had, before this podcast, we literally had Riley over. Ashley had to take Ryan to the airport. So I went to her house. Riley and I walked to my house. She came in. She marched right in. She found her Uncle Dustin. She got her stuffy from her room. We watched Encanto. We had dinner in her high chair. She wanted to hold hands while we watched the movie. She had a popsicle. And then her mom came and took her home, but it was just that's been a huge blessing from this whole thing, is that it's given us more appreciation for those moments. And it has allowed us to really grow together as a family because of those experiences, because of the girls, because my sister and brother-in-law, both my sisters, they allow us and share the girls so much, to the point where we say that they're partly ours. They're the closest thing I'm ever going to get to having my own blood. And I am so grateful for the ways they heal us. And yeah, they've just been the biggest blessing. And in a way, that's been answered prayers. When we built this house, we just built the house. We moved in last July. And when we signed for it before COVID, we picked a bigger floor plan thinking we were going to fill rooms with kids. And we moved into the house in last July, and then I ended up having a hysterectomy in October. And I had this extra room that was going to be a nursery. And we were like, what? This is awful. This house is now too big for us. And that's when Dustin was like, let's make it into the girls' room. And that's been an answered prayer. And the fact that my sisters both are like, yeah, take the kid for a sleepover.
Oh, are you kidding me? Yes.
Riley sleepover at least once a week.
What we would all have done for that.
Yeah, I know. We're in the same ward right now. So we take her on Saturday afternoon. My sister and brother-in-law get to go on a date. The baby sleeps over. We get up, we get her ready for church, and we bring her to church. And then my sister takes her home. So it works out really, really well.
Now you've got big sister energy, but probably bigger aunt energy.
Yeah. And they call me, when we were little, my brother couldn't say the ch sound. And so he ended up calling me Rah-Rah, and that kind of stuck. So the girls now call me Auntie Rah-Rah, or just Rah-Rah. And Riley finally has gotten the wah sound down. And so in the last 2 weeks, she's actually started saying Rah-Rah, Rah-Rah. And it's the best thing on the face of the planet. So yeah, that's been a very unexpected, beautiful blessing from everything. Are my nieces. I mean, it's so hard for me to talk about, just because I feel terrible still that I felt so bad, so jealous and so angry when Ashley told us that she was pregnant. Because now I look at Riley and I just think I can't imagine our life without her. She has healed us in every way. But if you were to tell me that I was going to feel like that now, when Ashley first told us that she was pregnant, I would not have believed you. It was such a dark time for me. And I think I had the opportunity for it to either heal us or make us even more bitter.
Or better.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm just really grateful, because I don't think it was me. I can't take the credit for that. There was a greater power who helped me make it better, because now I'm I love them both. So that's one of the biggest lessons, but I have another one. I won't ramble too much, but I think right now I've learned that I can be happy and sad at the same time. And that has been a really big lesson for me, and a blessing to learn to hold space for both emotions. And I've really learned now in this stage of post-hysterectomy that there is power in grieving the life we wanted while creating a life we love. And we're having the best time creating a new future for us. We are taking an indefinite break from growing our family. It's been a long 4.5, almost 5 years of being in limbo, of not being able to do a lot of the things we wanted to do. And so we're just, I don't have the emotional capacity for it right now. Maybe in a couple of years we'll revisit different ideas of growing our family. But right now we don't feel called to any idea. We just feel called to creating a new future and figuring out how we can be happy in a way that we didn't think we would be. Like we always thought we'd have lots of kids. And now, right now, we won't have any. And we're having a lot of fun creating a new future for ourselves.
That's beautiful.
You look like you're having fun. I like seeing all your trips and things that you're doing, fun things that you're doing.
We're going hard. We're traveling. We decided since we couldn't travel like the last 2.5 years due to how sick I was and all the treatment, that we would go really hard traveling this year. And we're traveling every month this year. And
that's awesome.
Checking off a lot of places on our bucket list. I'm very excited.
Well, and taking advantage of each other, your time together, because you're right. Infertility, your life is on hold. So now it's not, and you can enjoy that. That's great. You said some beautiful things that I think are going to help so many people. And I love one of the things that Sherri said in our introductory podcast is that we were going to have people on that made things better, not bitter. And that's just exactly what you said. And that's what you've done with this challenge. And so I admire you for that. And that's why I wanted to have you on here, because I think you're a great example and amazing. And thank you so much for being willing to talk to us and share your story with us and with those who will listen. We're grateful to have you on here.
Thank you so much, Chelsie.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It honestly is an honor.
I'm going to follow you on Instagram now.
Do it. You can find me at Hey There Chelsie.
All right. Hey There Chelsie.
That's spelled IE,
CHELSIE. Hey There Chelsie.
IE. Yep.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank you, Chelsie.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure. Talk to you soon.
I think that of our episode where you get to tell us the end of your story.
Thank you, Sherri. So I know everybody's journey is different. My journey started when I married my husband with 3 children already, and they did not live with us full time. And I wanted to have a whole bunch of kids. Mm-hmm. I wanted a huge family. The bigger, the better. And so after 6.5 years of trying to conceive, we were able to adopt. And so that was a whole miracle process. And we are going to have another podcast episode just on adoption. In fact, probably more than one from the perspective of adoptive parents and another from the perspective of being adopted and other adoption. But I just want to say, I cannot even begin to describe the joy that I felt. So we adopted twins, and then 4.5 years later, a baby girl, twin boys, and then a baby girl. And they were babies. And so the twins were, I'm going to get emotional talking about this. The twins were premature and their lungs weren't fully developed. So I had to keep them in. They were born in the summer and they were in the hospital for 2 months, came to us after that. And then from the end of September until April, I had to keep them at home. So the first time, other than their doctor appointments, and I think that's it, the first time they were on oxygen and apnea monitors, and then they weren't anymore, but we still, because of RSV, had to keep them in, and they had special RSV shots that were approved because of their fragile condition and everything. And so the first time I was able to take them out was for their adoption, and then we had their baby blessings, and they were sealed to us. In our religion, that is a special ceremony where families can be sealed together, and they were sealed to us, and it's as though they were born to us. And Sherri was there. Mm-hmm. And then the next day was Easter Sunday, and I got to bring him to church for the first time. And after years of sitting in church and watching all these kids around me and moms holding their babies and serving in the nursery where the little babies were, and not having any, and then to walk into church and have 2 babies in my arms was just, I can't begin to describe the joy that I felt. I remember I used to dance around the house with them. My family's Italian, and there's that song, That's Amore, and it's when the moon hits your eye, like a great pizza pie, that's amore. And then it says, when you walk in a dream, but you know you're not dreaming. And that's how I felt. I felt like I was walking in a dream. I had my babies, and I was so happy. And later with my baby girl, too. Anyway, I knew that if I had not felt the pain and if I had not had the waiting like I did, I would never have experienced joy to that degree. Like, because of the greater pain, there was greater joy. And I think that's one way that we can see the sunshine, that the Lord compensates. And whether our blessings happen in this life or the next, He will compensate for us. And I think if we trust Him, that's where we can find the sunshine. And I remember saying during that time that I would go through it again, because that's how grateful I felt and how much I felt like I got a glimpse of the joy we'll feel in heaven when everything is made right. Whatever is wrong, which infertility is, will be made right, and the Lord will make it right and compensate. And I felt that during that time, and that we'll be able to look back on our lives and understand why we had to go through certain things, because I could see the purpose in it. And just looking back on the blessings that came from infertility for me, I mean, I still held out that I was going to have the miracle of giving birth. Mm-hmm. I thought I never would have adopted, if I hadn't been through this, but I still thought maybe that miracle was for me. And that never happened. But I later understand some of the reasons why. I think the Lord kind of helped me to understand some of that. But the blessings that came through this trial, I had, tender mercies, times where I felt like the Lord was walking with me through this trial, that He was very aware of me and my suffering in it, and He was with me. And so I felt closer to Him. And I think we often do, whatever our trials are, that we can feel closer to Him when we're going through them. And I will actually share, too, that when I did have to have my hysterectomy, I never wanted to have that surgery. But in it, some of the most spiritual experiences of my life came out of that experience, where I know the Savior was with me and I could feel His love for me. And also my husband's love. I woke up and Bruno was sitting beside me, and I reflected. I remember he was sleeping in the chair, and I could reflect back on all that we'd been through together through this infertility journey, and I could feel His love for me so much. And I felt like that was something that God allowed me to feel at that time. And I think it strengthened our marriage and was a blessing in our marriage, because we just loved each other more deeply. And then I got to experience motherhood in different ways. And I know that for everybody, maybe that won't be their outcome. We all have different outcomes. But I know that God is aware of us and loves us.
I love your story, because I was there. And I remember getting to help you with the babies, taking all their oxygen and stuff to appointments and things.
Yeah.
Watching them grow. But it was a miracle story. And I appreciate you sharing that. I know it's hard. It's not an easy thing to talk about. I wanted to share a quote from Neil F. Marriott. It says, "Nurturing is not limited to bearing children. Eve was called a mother before she had children. I believe that to mother means to give life. Think of the many ways you give life. It could mean giving emotional life to the hopeless, or spiritual life to the doubter. With the help of the Holy Ghost, we can create an emotionally healing place for the discriminated against, the rejected, and the stranger. In these tender yet powerful ways, we build the kingdom of God. Sisters, all of us came to earth with these life-giving, nurturing, maternal gifts, because that is God's plan."
Yeah, I love that.
I do too. So there's all these other ways that we are mothers, even if we are not able to have our own.
Like Chelsie was talking about with her nieces and how she feels about them. And
right.
We all have a role to play.
I love that. Well, this has been very good. I'm hoping that this will reach some people and help some people and bring some sunshine. That is the goal. I think we've learned from all of these amazing women that they have found a way to find the sunshine, even though some of them are still in their journeys. We would love to hear from you.
Yes, we really would. So please give us your feedback.
And let us know if there's any topics you'd like us to cover.
And how you have found the sunshine with the lemons in your lives.
And how do they give us feedback, Kimberly?
You can find us, Lemonade and Sunshine, on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple iTunes. Please give us a review and rating. It really helps us as a new show.
Oh, yeah, it absolutely does. So until next time, we hope that you can feel the sunshine.
And we hope you will tune in next week to Lemonade and Sunshine.